Okay, today I wanted to talk about something that was on my mind just now, which is the statement, to each their own. And it's something I've heard a lot throughout my life. I think in this, like, for the majority of people that are living unconsciously and believing that the material world is all there is, and in that case, if there is no real apparent purpose or meaning to life, no sort of like real need to, if you don't want to, move towards a higher self or understanding truth or a true nature or anything like that. I think I've just woken up, so my mind's a bit jumbled here, so hopefully this carries and makes sense, but hopefully this is simple enough to express. But I always found that not only I didn't find that it didn't sit right with me, but I knew that it was a mendacity. And this is because to each their own, or when people say others can do as they please, as it doesn't affect me, is actually, I feel, more deleterious and more harmful to those people, and more uncaring, and less, as they would think. I don't know, like it's a kind of blind passivity, because when you start to understand things as a collective consciousness and the quality of the aforesaid, then it does matter what everyone does, and it does affect you. It might not affect you immediately in your immediate reality, but in terms of the quality of consciousness and how things continue to manifest as a result of quality of thoughts and desire, attachment, and what that brings in terms of where people's intentions lie, it actually does affect the quality of the collective the quality of the collective consciousness in an adverse and negative way, as it's like de-evolution instead of ascension. And there was something, it's like you would want all people to be whole and coming together for the sake of humanity, and for the sake of the collective consciousness. And these are coming from thoughts that I've got from Thomas Campbell, from My Big Toe, and various other writings, like from Eckhart Tolle. I'm trying to think of who else, that's like apparent there, but for some reason that's really what's coming up. Carl Jung, and trying to understand these things, and like, and also the truth, I think, is being monolithic in the fact that it's an absolute thing. And I think a lot of people don't think about this. There's so much relativism today about everyone's living their own truth, or what their own truth is, and I always found that very frustrating as well. The idea of like everyone's right as long as they're living in accordance to the values that they set for themselves. And I think that's a thing of what appears to be and not what is. And what is what is most important. Because if it appears to be so, if it appears to be good for them, but it isn't, because of some lack of awareness, or lacking information, or lacking an understanding of our true nature, then it is actually, in fact, harmful for them, and it's causing them to further sort of sink into the separation and gratification of their ego, and or just be in the egoic self, like especially if it's something like of pain and things like that. I think like you could touch on every topic with this, I think, but I just wanted to talk about that. And even though it's not as terse or lucid or eloquent as I would have liked it to, this is how it's coming out because I need to do it, because I think it is important that it gets out there, even to a small effect. But I just wanted to talk about that sort of virulent thought form of to each their own, which seems to be very common. And I don't think that like it should be an oppressive thing that's saying that you shouldn't just do what you please, because like it's fire. It's good to like there's obviously that now this is something I have to think about now. but I think there's we've been made as unique individuated expressions of that absolute unbounded manifold, or whatever you would like to call it. And so eventually we are all realizing that we are part of that one life beyond all form. And like our purpose really is to help people to remember that, to recall that. And I don't understand, like I realize there's like difference and dynamism and things like that is great in the world, and like it's wonderful to see so much variety and so much beauty out there and things like that. But I do feel like people will live better, and the quality of life will improve overall. And this is another thing, this is something maybe I might talk about in another video, but I understood it through and this is again how the truth dovetails. I was very obsessed about speaking about the importance of maturity. And this is something I also struggle with and trying to embody in my own life. But this aligns with like the virtues of the Stoics and things like that, like courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. These things are like the archetypes or the archetypal self, like the quadrated self, which talks about the king, warrior, magician, and lover, which is like a painterly way of understanding the inner workings of the self, especially the of the mature masculine, is the way that I understood it through a book titled King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And after reading that book, I realized you're able to see all of the different bipolar dysfunctions and things like that are happening in the external world through other confusion, other people's confusion with how to operate and how they've been conditioned culturally to behave or appear to be in this world. And of course this aligns with all like history and things like that, and all the stuff that's going on that's created such an immature presence both through femininity and masculinity today. And you see it running rampant, that incredible immaturity today through the way of like how people approach sex, how people approach work and family life and each other through wars and things like that. This is one of those things that I really feel like needs a lot more attention, and maybe again I will speak about this in other videos if I can. Maybe I need to refresh my memory, because I think the reason why I'm so staggered and things like that is because I've been in a bit of a depression recently and for quite a while, and I've allowed myself to wander, sort of letting go of the reins, if that makes sense. So there's a sort of sharpness of and clarity and conciseness that I'm wanting to get back to So I hope you can bear with me there as I sort of try to bring these things forth. But, I think it is imperative that I do bring these things forth because, even if I die, you can never tell when your last moments are. So I do want to bring forth what I can, what light and understanding and wisdom I can. And if that could be influencing and affecting another, to carry further, to plant that seed of light within the collective conscious and within whatever this reality dimension and human experiment or whatever it is, to bring us closer to God, to bring us closer to truth, to closer to what our true nature is. So I think what I noticed anyway, and what I thought was, if we all work towards becoming more virtuous or more mature, I think there are two different ways of it, because maturity is commensurate with enlightenment. I think that it's matching in size and degree to that, because it's embodying all of these, but it does have to be married with presence. It has to be married with presence and being, and understanding being. So it's not living in a state of, because I think the masculine can be very future focused, and that's not the correct way. The correct way is being virtuous at every moment, and using your will right now, whatever little will you have, which I remember there's another YouTuber that talks about this called Accepting the Universe, and he's a lot more eloquent than I am, but I think he also expresses how important it is for all of the individuated expressions, all of us, to be sharing this wisdom with one another. It shouldn't just come from one source. It's coming from all of us, and eventually there's this new kind of undoing of all of the conditioning and stuff like that. So it is important for each person to share their own experiences and stuff like with this. And again, like, this is all, what I'm saying would appear to be all just knowledge, I think that it's very important in order for it to be wisdom, it has to be lived. And it has to be, you have to have experiential data of what you're saying. So, and I think this happens a lot with, this happens a lot in like the pseudo-spiritual communities and things like that, where people talk about presence and the importance of presence and things like that, without actually having lived experience of that. And I know I was like that for a while with like these things. Like I knew what truth was, but I never had lived experience of it. And I feel like that's the sort of period I'm going through now. This kind of epoch is where I'm actually putting it into practice. And it funnily enough, it almost feels, the brain or the mind almost makes it feel like less important, which it's more important. But it feels simple. Like it feels like I should be devouring more knowledge and things like that. And I think that's another reason why I let go of reading so much. But I would like to read more, because I think maybe I just need to, certain synapses need to connect again or something. Maybe they don't. But the thing I think I was worried about is inundating my mind with, it's almost like a waste of time to keep reading the same thing over and over again when you already get the concept, if that makes sense. Like, it's like, oh, a different author saying the same thing. Like, it's similar to like me expressing something as well as someone else online expressing something that says the same thing. Like, it's equally as important, but it doesn't mean you have to listen to both people. You can, but it's like, once you get the concept, you have it, and it's time to put that into practice. So I think that's, I mean, this is sort of turned into a bit of a tangent here, but I just wanted to talk about, the duplicity and the deluded sort of mindset of to each their own, because I really do think that it does matter a great deal about what we do at every moment. And I think that and I do believe, and maybe this is something I could talk about later in more detail, but I do believe certain things are sacred, especially when it comes to certain unions and the way that we're able to, divine generative unity with partnership, how we can remind each other of who we really are. And I read something actually in The Power of Now, because I still haven't finished it, but I'm still reading through, where it talks about how a lot of people use their relationships, or sex or whatever, this apparent union, to forget their mind or their their thoughts that are constantly caustic and causing them pain and suffering. And so that's why people become very, go into these places as a means of escape or addiction. There's an addictive quality to it, to desire and to these, to sex and things like that, because it allows them to escape from facing themselves and seeing their soul. And so, again, to reiterate, I feel like the statement of to each their own can be very damaging. Because imagine if you had a friend that you loved dearly and you wanted them to be well, you wanted them to be, to have internal cohesion, to experience joy and peace. And it's almost like it's not complicit is the word, but it's almost like watching on as someone ruins themselves. I think that's terribly remiss. It's very neglectful to just let your fellow man ruin themselves. So I think that's all I wanted to express today, was that whole tangent, the importance of maturity. I guess I was trying to contextualize what I meant by the deluded nature of that statement, to each their own. And that the quality of the collective consciousness as well as your own, which is the way that is the way that the collective improves itself, is on the individual level. So it does matter what each individual does, and it does matter if they're in alignment with their highest characteristics or qualities, not what your own apparent relative truth is, but trying to understand. And through history, it's been repeated many times, and there's many iterations and examples, of what a higher self, what a more full or mature person is. And it's you can't deny that is the most attractive state, that is the most desired state to be. Everyone wants to have these qualities. It's like the same thing of everyone possesses the same statistical characteristics as everyone else. Nobody wants to be in pain. As much as you might convince yourself that you enjoy it or whatever, nobody wants to be in pain. Nobody wants to be in a state of constant fear and misery. Nobody wants to feel immature. Nobody wants to feel, cowardly. No one wants to feel foolish or lacking in wisdom. And no one wants to feel disconnected. or lacking self-control or order within their own life, within their own internal kingdom. And so to each their own is not a good way to live, and it's not and having these relativistic truths is not a good way to live. I can also understand how people can have trouble with certain words, though, like absolute as something unchanging, because it's definitely something, especially if you've come from some kind of poor example of a father or mother or something like that, how you can want to rebel against that idea of something absolute that you have to abide by, especially if you've been oppressed in any way, told what to do. So I just wanted to not be that either. But there is a higher self to work towards, and so it does matter what everyone is doing at every moment. And I really believe that this blind passivity, letting everyone sort of ruin themselves, or just a lack of understanding, really it is, just a lack of understanding and wisdom. Again, the importance of bringing these things forth, even though I feel not ready, not at all. Like I really don't feel ready to, it's not refined or anything. But yeah, I think it's the reason why it's so important to bring these things forth is because this brings more deeper understanding into the collective psyche or the collective consciousness. And hopefully it will be able to reshape it so that we don't completely end in ruin, and as a result of our addiction to darkness and our addiction to not facing ourselves, I guess, or escaping, which is so strange. Like it's one of those strange things. I'm gonna wrap this up, but it's so strange. It's like the idea of like, and I don't want to talk too much about this either, but like if there's anyone in control of this world, and they're obsessed with power and control, which is, I don't want to get into that stuff. I don't want to be a fearmonger. Also, like, I don't have experiential data of it, so. But if they are, for example, then they forfeit their gifts in heaven, or whatever you want to call it. They forfeit their true power. Working and abiding by and being in alignment with the light and their higher selves and their true nature. It is so opposite. And so the only thing that can result in is ruin. So it's just like, that's why there's such a strong influence in technology and its distracting sort of potency, where it tries to farm your attention or take your attention away. Because I just want to keep talking about everything, but I feel like this would probably be maybe too much already. But I think the other thing that I've been really struggling with, again, like with participating in being in the world but not of it, or whatever you want to call it, but it's like, of course I want to free myself financially and things like that. I think that's important, but it's also like, you don't want to contribute to, I don't know, maybe that's the reason why this is just my own way of operating and bringing something forth. Because I just know that I can't be one of those people that are an entertainer in the traditional sense, or something, maybe. Even though I've always liked the idea of acting and things like that, it seemed fun. Maybe it can be fun, but maybe it's like not the time for it or something, I don't know. So, either way, this is what I wanted to bring forth. Terribly messy, again, and just sort of like a thought, But hopefully that gave some context and some idea of what I've been trying to say about to each their own, or that statement, which is where the original impulse or propulsion to make this video came from. I'm trying to listen to it now instead of like, oh, I'll do it in the afternoon, you know, I'll do it this time. It's like, no, just when it comes up, talk about it. Even if you're not ready, even if you have there's no pre-written anything, like it's just based on what I've thought about and all of the parallels and things like that I've been trying to draw throughout my life and whilst being on this spiritual journey of coming back home and then wanting all of my brothers and sisters to come back home with me so that we can all feel the peace and like really embody and feel love and peace and joy. And all of us feel brave and courageous. And for all of us to have order and generativity and self-control and feel connected to nature and to all things. And to feel wise and introspective and intuitive. And to know that there's so much power there.